Hello, I am Nimja, and this is Nimja Live, September 2016. Let's hope everything is working fine. There we go. As far as I can tell, everyone is able to see me. Very good. So once again, hello, I am Nimja, and this is Nimja Live, September 2016, with the theme Deep Space. It was actually very interesting to see the theme selection this month, because normally there's a very clear winner. But this time the votes were much closer than I was expecting. Still, Deep Space won. And as for how the theme will be applied, we will see that soon enough. Now, before I begin, I would like to thank my Patreon supporters for their continued patronage. Thanks to them, I'm very happily doing the Nimja Live every month. So, thank you, my patrons, for your support. And thank you, donators, for your donations. It's really good to see that you take the effort for even a small donation in your appreciation of my work. So thank you. Now, for those who have done this before, you'll know that I cannot chat, like text chat, while I'm on the mic, because the keyboard sound would be very annoying. And another thing, on the 1st of October, I will be giving a hypnosis workshop in Belgium. This will be adults only, and you can find details on hypno.nimja.com/live. Now, is everyone with us so far? Very good. All right. So about the theme of deep space. I have an idea of where to begin, but I've seen some various directions of where I could take it. So tell me, what do you envision when you think of deep space? Because like always, I like to improvise. I like to see what parts you come up with and what consensus we can reach together. And don't worry, I'll give it my own spin. Aliens, space travel, galaxies and nebulae and shooting stars, black holes, to be sucked in by a black hole. People chasing aliens, space monsters. Of course, Doctor Who. Oh, keep in mind, I will not be using any intellectual property. And yes, Liz42100, deep space will also be deep trance, but I'm actually curious what other people think of the concept of space. If you're curious what I'm typing, I'm making some small notes based on your suggestions. Ooh, weightless is also a very good one. Okay. Oh, thank you, Emily. Thoughts orbiting around Nimja. Well, as much as I like to take control of people, I don't consider myself the center of the universe. Yeah, I'm seeing some very, very nice suggestions. Being weightless, having no sound in space, just being like floating through it, looking at all the beautiful stars and nebulae. Maybe even floating out and seeing the galaxies. So keep in mind that this is a non-kinky month. So this will not be a very dominance-heavy file. And 8 knives, Pluto will always be a planet to me. Oh, interesting idea by Emily, witnessing the creation of space. And yes, I know that Pluto is a dwarf planet. And no intellectual properties, Stardust, so we're not going to visit Milky Ways. All right. I must say, you've come up with some very interesting suggestions. Okay, I think we're about ready to begin. There are a few rules. During the trance, try to participate, but if you cannot, please be quiet in the chat. If you see other people not being quiet in the chat, you have my permission to tell them to be quiet. I would like the chat to not move much while the trance is busy, as it could be distracting for those who are trying to participate. And yes, Fancy Lala, you made it just in time. We haven't begun the trance quite yet. So, are you all ready? Very good. Glad to see you're all ready. All right. Let's begin. Since the dawn of time, people have been looking at space. They have been staring up into the night sky, especially on clear nights, wondering what those twinkling lights so far up above could mean. People have been giving the stars meaning, giving them personalities, shapes, myths. Always has humanity wondered what lies beyond the stars. Tonight, we may find out a thing or two. We'll try to travel through not just the universe, but through all the galaxies and what we can find. Please close your eyes and just listen. Imagine yourself laying on your back in a field during a clear night. No clouds to obscure the vision of the stars high above you. Every little twinkle, every dot in the sky is a star unimaginably far away. And yet, there are so many of them, more than you can count, and every time you try to count all the stars, you see more. I'm sure you've tried. I'm sure you've looked up and tried to count them all, knowing that you're not going to give up until you've seen and counted every last one of them. But wouldn't it be nice if instead of counting, we could go up there and look at them in person? So while you're laying there, looking up into the night sky, imagine me lifting your mind out of your body, taking you on a beautiful journey through the stars into deep space. Now first, I'm going to count down. Normally when I count down, you feel your body becoming heavier. But now, your body is going to fall away from you. Or rather, you're going to float up. See, as I start counting by 10, you can feel yourself slowly falling away from your body. 9, rising up to meet the night sky. 8, just imagine yourself getting closer and closer to those stars. 7, just following my voice and helping you higher. 6, guiding you through the layers of clouds, the Earth's atmosphere that separates our little ball of life and the rest of the universe. 5, just rising higher and higher, almost blinded by the sun. Out of Earth's atmosphere, the sun is not just a little ball in the sky. It lights up everything. The sun is a star that's right next door, and it is beautiful in its intensity. 4, going higher and higher still, slowly backing away seeing the moon just on the edge of your vision as you pull back, traveling through the solar system. 3. You pass by the planets through the circles of Saturn, over the stormy landscape of Neptune. You go further and further out into the solar system, 2. And you finally meet that little planet Pluto, a ball of ice, mysterious and beautiful. And finally, 1. Your body is completely dropped away from you, and your mind floats free. Now, of course, we have to begin somewhere, don't we? And let us go through the Milky Way. The Sun has many neighbors. Alpha Centauri is the closest star, just barely a few light years away. So we fly through the deep space, and you find that space is not as empty as it seems. As your mind flies through the empty void, you find that there is space dust. It tickles all across your mind. You pass through it completely unharmed, but you notice it. All these little pieces of meteors and planets just floating through space. But we go further and further, all the way to the first and closest star. At first glance, it is just another sun, but the color is different. It's just a slight, subtle shift in hue, but you now suddenly start to realize that you're no longer anywhere near Earth. Of course, this isn't quite deep space yet, but it's a step on our journey to find out where we want to go. Again, we travel deeper and deeper. Your mind is completely weightless, unaffected by gravity, and shifts. We slowly fly. We slowly fly through a nebula, the cool purple and blue color shifting all around you. And it takes a while before you finally hear something. You weren't even aware of how quiet it was until sound returned. The nebula is electrically charged, and you see small sparks of lightning. Small, because your sense of scale is completely gone. The nebula is larger than our solar system, and each little spark of lightning is further than the moon is from Earth. Scale means nothing when you have nothing to compare it to. You don't even know how large or small you are out here. Maybe you are just a dot of light, smaller than a dust. Maybe you are bigger than a planet, larger than a sun, just traveling through the galaxy, flowing through the Milky Way. Deep, deep inside the nebula, you find something. Deep inside the nebula is a circle of light. And through that circle of light you see something else. As you travel through the portal, you end up in deep, empty space. In the distance, there's a star, there's another one. But close by, there is nothing. There is a blackness around you that you've never seen before. On Earth, there is never full darkness, but here in deep space there is. Even though you're weightless, you can feel how something out there wants to pull on you. It is one of the monsters of space. One of the most terrifying, beautiful, fascinating things in creation. A black hole. But you don't know where it is exactly. You can't see it. The gravity inside a black hole is so strong it pulls everything in, including light. It bends space and time around it. But you're not afraid. You're not afraid of this monster because it cannot affect you. And as you sit there, you can feel everything around you shifting. It is like time is fast forwarding, and you travel with the black hole to the nearest star. And the first time you realize that something is happening is when the star is coming up to meet you. A tendril of light, pure gaseous light, is traveling towards you as if greeting you. And as you look around you, you realize that the black hole is sipping, is taking light from the sun. And as time continues to move, you feel that light, that tendril spiraling closer and closer to the center of the black hole. You see it as a disk of light becoming sharper and more powerful, stronger until it finally reaches the center of the black hole, and the speed it has then makes it fly out of the sight. It is beautiful to see. A black hole consuming a star. It is intense in every possible description. As you are here in deep space, you are witnessing the death of a star being consumed piece by piece, torn apart by the ferocious strength of a black hole. You cannot help but stand and watch, the only silent watcher of a star fading away. And as time passes by in a way you cannot comprehend, you watch the star's lasts, and you watch the star's last dying moments. You don't know if this star had a solar system with life. You don't know if this was just a lonely star. You don't know anything about this star, but you are here to witness it passing. And when the last embers of light fade away and everything becomes black, I take you and move you further. We shift through space and time, and I take you far, far outside of the Milky Way, looking over galaxies. And suddenly, you see them moving. Time is moving faster and faster, but it's moving backwards. All the galaxies are moving towards each other. All the galaxies, the Milky Way, the stars, the sun, the moons, all the planets and all life, all collapsing to one point. And there time seems to stop. There is no distance here. There is no time here. This is the time before time, a moment before matter. There is energy, but nothing else. There is no sound. There is no weight. There are no directions. What you see is in front of you, but you cannot look around. You realize that your eyes are playing tricks on you. There are no directions here, no forward, no backward, no time, no space. In a way, this is the deepest you can be in space. The place where you are before existence was present. And there will be a moment soon when it all starts again. There will be a moment soon when I snap my fingers and you will witness the Big Bang. You will witness 1 billion years in just a few seconds, seeing every star born, seeing thousands, millions of stars die before life on Earth has even begun. You will witness it all and embrace the awe. Boom. The light streams past you, every point in the universe together. Stars, planets, worlds, galaxies are born. They twist, they shift, they move. They are all around you. They are all around everything. Time is moving in a way that doesn't seem possible. And you are a watcher, an observant. You are there to see it all. Stars explode as supernovas, creating nebulas of immense beauty and shapes. Facing all of this, you realize that time is precious, even though there is so much of it. Every point in the star, every point in the night sky counts. Every tick of the clock matters. Big and small things happen. And as we travel back to Earth through the deepest of space, you see the light streaming past your mind. You can see supernovas exploding and fading away. gas clouds collapsing together and forming suns. Planets forming from the debris of explosions. Life as a result of maybe just an accident. Everything forms, collapses, reforms again. Birth and rebirth. Death and life. Every moment is precious. Every light is precious. In a moment, I will bring you back to Earth, back to your body. I hope you remember the sights, the sensations. And I hope you will sometimes look up into the night sky and wonder. Wonder about every dot of light. And wonder which of those dots may be staring back at you. One, two, slowly rising. 3, 4, more aware. 5, 6, slowly waking. 7, 8, almost awake. And 9, 10, wake. And welcome back. I hope everyone enjoyed that. And I think I've included most things that people mentioned to me. And yes, Hannah Angle, I just made that up on the spot. Sorry, yeah, Jay made a very funny typo. It's a shame he didn't have earbuds. Now give me 1 moment. Okay. Diamond, yes, I can see your chats. All right. Now, when everyone has recovered a little bit, we will start with the Q&A. And I must say, I actually enjoyed the visual as well. I made like 1 or 2 mistakes, but that's okay. I can cut them out before I make the MP3. And if anyone is curious, the MP3 will be downloadable on hypno.nimja.com a while after the event. Marina asks, are you planning more hour-long files? Yes and no, not anytime soon. Making an hour-long file is several hours of work, and I don't have enough time at the moment. Nova Shadowfeather asks, regarding the session, what's your favorite thing about space? Space, space, so much space. Lesorios asks, Sir, why are you up so late? Because I'm doing the live event. Lee Bug asks, will we have more tentacle and snake video? Maybe. I would keep my eyes open for next Tuesday, actually. Diamond asks, do you think many younger people are interested in your work? According to the YouTube statistics, actually the median age is about 24, but the spread of age is quite wide. JL asks, how late is it for you? Well, the event starts at 10 o'clock European time. 8 Knives asks, now that you've done a few live streams, do you start to expect a certain kinds of questions when you see a familiar, regular name show up in the chat? No, usually they still manage to surprise me. Hannah Angle asks, how do you know if you're being hypnotized? Well, mostly by the effect. Being hypnotized doesn't actually sound like anything. Feel like anything, sorry. It's just a matter of focus. Someone also asked, no. Oh, hi, how has my day been? My day was pretty good. Susie Brown asks, could you do another file like Acting Brainwashed? Yeah, I will probably make more fantasy files. Nicole BV asks, is it normal to still feel pleasure for non-kinky files? Yes. If you enjoy hypnosis a lot, or if you have a fetish for hypnosis, even just a normal trance can be very arousing. Lesorios asks, do I have your Oreos? No, I do not. I am Oreoless today. Nova Shellfeather asks, do you enjoy debates in any form? No. I enjoy intelligent debates, I enjoy playful debates, but as soon as Flame War starts, I no longer enjoy it. QPYD asks, since we're on the topic of space, have you played Super Mario Galaxy? Both of them all-stars. Including the Luigi ones. Actually, that is not true. I didn't finish the Luigi ones of Super Mario Galaxy 2. Those were really hard. Marina cleverly asks, will there be a live event on the 2nd of October? Yes, there will be. Eight Knives asks, regarding something I mentioned last month, what social things are you bad at? I am not great in groups and like work parties. Susie Brown asks, what is the difference between kinky and erotic hypnosis? Well, technically nothing. The separation I make on my site is that kinky is more BDSM related and erotic is with less or no BDSM, but still erotic. Seth asks, do you work your normal programming on the weekends? No, I actually work normal weekdays. Sarina Polderdijk says, hi, greets from Holland, which is not a question, but still nice. Lizzie asks, what advice would you have for someone who has trouble getting deep in trance? Well, I have some tips on the About section. And otherwise, see if you can find a live session with someone. Like, real sessions usually work better than recordings. Lee Bug asks, would you make a live video just for girls? Probably not. I think my live sessions will be accessible to as many people as possible. Nova Shellfeather asks, do you fear or enjoy the idea of AI becoming commonplace? Both. My worry is not so much about AI, but how humanity will treat AI. See, if we treat something that is life as life, it'll be fine. Oh, sorry, Cupid. I will pronounce QPYD as Cupid. Diamond says, what is BDSM? It is an acronym standing for bondage, domination, submission, and masochism. Basically, whips, paddles, ropes, and surs. Fancy Lala asks, if one falls asleep during a session, does the hypnosis have the same effect? If you fully fall asleep, no. Hypnosis is not a sleep state. Larissa asks, does a snake file turn into some kind of tying bondage file, or do you do bondage separately? Most people consider snake files to be bondage related. Nicole PV asks, how can you tell if you just went really deep or are starting to fall asleep? Practice. It's really hard to explain that simply. Fancy Lala asks, what is AI? It stands for Artificial Intelligence. Hannah Engel asks, how do you say your YouTuber name? Nimja. Susie Brown asks, have you watched the anime Clannad? I have. Cupid asks, have you completed Undertale, and if so, which route did you do? I'm sorry, I have not completed Undertale yet. I have barely started it, but I've been so busy with so many games. I'm actually playing Guacamelee at the moment. And Nova Shadowfeather asks, do you enjoy watching your subs sleep? If I put them to sleep, yes. Liz Orios asks, do you have advice for someone hearing voices? Tell them to leave you alone. Georgina Rice asks, have you ever wished upon a star and did it come true? We'll see. Else the Rebel asks, so the subconscious doesn't hear the hypnotist if the person is asleep? Well, correct, but strictly taken, if a person is fully asleep, the subconscious indeed no longer listens. However, if the subconscious is interrupted or triggered, for example by saying the person's name, they can enter sort of a half state where you're like dozing, not quite awake and not quite asleep. Eight Knives asks, what happens if a Dutch person doesn't go Dutch? Mortal Kombat. No, it usually goes fine. Cupid asks, hardest boss you've ever fought in a video game? Hardest boss? Ooh. I don't know. I don't know what the hardest boss is. The hardest level is the final level of the Super Mario World on the Wii U. Super Mario 3D World. There's a special level after you've unlocked everything that is crazy hard. Hannah Engel asks, do you have a degree in hypnosis? I do not. There are some reasons behind this, mostly that in the Netherlands getting a degree in hypnosis is not easy nor special. It's very expensive and it doesn't add much. In the US I may have gotten one. Diamond asks, do you play any instruments? Yes, I play piano and guitar. Piano okay, guitar a little bit. Nova Shadowfeather asks, what do you find beauty in? The beholder. Emily asks, what was the wish you wished upon a star? Now that would be telling. Disney Lover asks, with your live streams, do you have some ideas pre-planned in your mind? I usually have a rough idea of the start, but I let the audience inspire me as to the actual direction. Nicole asks, what are your thoughts on AR, augmented reality, VR, virtual reality, and MR? Not sure. Mixed reality? particularly regarding recent innovations. I do not program in any 3D space at the moment, basically because the technology is nowhere near grown up enough for me to spend much time on it. I think AR is the future. The Microsoft HoloLens has a much better future than the VR glasses. Fancy Lala asks, do you believe in law of attraction, as in physics and gravity, or... Cupid asks, have you watched an anime called Osumatsu-san? I have not. And Else the Rebel mentions that you can't learn Spanish or any other language at all while you're sleeping. This is correct. If you're sleeping, you will not learn anything. Eight Knives asks, was learning to spell harder in English or in Dutch? Very interesting question. Actually, Dutch is much, much harder. It has so many exceptions. Lee Bug asks, would you do a spiral video? I already have. In fact, all my videos have spirals. Have a spiral. Susie Brown asks, are you a deep sleeper? Actually, no, I sleep quite light. I wake up very easily as well. If someone calls my name, I'm generally easily awake. Diamond asks, what is a good way to find other people who share an interest in hypnosis? Is there a good way to explain it without making it sound scary or creepy? Outside of FetLife or Sleepy Chat or other places where you can meet people, talking about hypnosis still gets some weird reactions. Jay asks, do you ever have someone else hypnotize you? Not very successfully. Les Oreos asks, do you have a pocket watch? Yes, but I am not going to show it. Maybe another time. Jay asks, could you listen to your own files and hypnotize your future self by making the file? No, I do not get hypnotized by listening to myself. Nova Shadowfeather asks, have you been playing Pokemon Go? No. I also have not been playing Ingress. I know about them though. Susie Brown asks, all my friends at school think I'm weird for doing hypnosis. How do I convince them it's not weird? Well, the thing you can do is saying that hypnosis has a scientific basis, people do it daily, especially if they study, and it's safe. Disney Lover asks, out of all the visuals you've designed, do you have a favorite? If so, which is it? My favorite is probably the geometric shapes because of the amount of effort that I put into it. But visually, it varies a bit on my mood. Diamond asks, isn't it magical that I'm chatting from a Kindle? No, it's technological. Lesorios asks, sir, why do little ones have to go to bed? So that they can dream about castles. Maria Star asks, hand movement please. Maybe later. Emily asks, what was your inspiration for the new little space file? Several things actually. I wanted to make a little space file for quite a long while, and 3 months ago on Reddit I actually asked people to tell me how they experienced the little space, and it was quite fun to make the recording. Nicole asks, which is your favorite file you've made thus far? The one for Tuesday. All I'm saying is that consent is important. Eight Knives asks, what kind of questions do you wish people would ask you more or less of? That is a very good question. Mostly I'm okay with any kinds of question. I like being surprised. I usually do prefer questions with actual content to the question. Like asking me what SpongeBob SquarePants meme I like is sort of empty. Over 9,000 Cookies asks, which do you like more, cuddles or smiles? Tough choice. What about cuddles with smiles? Nova Shadowfeather asks, is there such a thing as too kinky? Yes, actually there is. When you're doing things just to prove how kinky you are and going too far with your body with it, I think that is too kinky. There's a difference between like actually enjoying it and just trying to prove yourself. Nicole PV asks, the one for this upcoming Tuesday? Yes, the one that's going to come next Tuesday. In 2 days. Lee Bug asks, my friend think I am wired, that I am personality. What do you think, sir? Could you rephrase that? 8 Knife says, should smiles be preferable? Otherwise his motto would be cuddle with me and not smile with me. Good point. But I think smile with me is more welcoming. Liz Orios asks, have you heard of the Grey Knight? No, I only know of the Black Knight. 'Tis but a scratch. Oh, the Christarina asks, could you please explain anchoring? Okay. Yeah, that's a really good question. How do I begin? I would say that anchoring is like linking a firm starting point. Getting a good basis for further things. Lesorios asks, have you watched Charlie the Unicorn? Yes, I've also watched Llamas with Hats. Film Cow is very entertaining. Leebug asks, my friends think I'm weird that I have multiple personalities. What do you think, sir? Actually, multiple personalities and hypnosis have some interesting overlap. And I don't think it's weird. I just think it is something you are or have. Susie Brown asks, what is your favorite Shakespeare play if you have one? Probably Macbeth. Nicole PV asks, what kind of behaviors and demeanors do you prefer in a sub? Ooh, we're going to be here all night if I'm going to try and list that. Cupid asks, have you watched Don't Hug Me, I'm Scared? Yes, I have. Liz Orios asks, sir, what is your bratty voice? Wouldn't you like to know? Nova Shadowfeather asks, speaking of Warhammer 40k, do you know much about the Warhammer series? I've actually played the fantasy Warhammer for a short while, and I know of Warhammer 40k, but it is not a universe I find particularly interesting. Hannah Angle says, you made my day by being the first YouTube to answer my questions. I'm doing my best to take all the questions. Thank you, Hannah. Eight Knives asks, waar is Ihnen schwer Deutsch zu lernen, da es so ähnlich wie Niederländisch klingt? As in, Was it difficult to learn German because it sounds so similar to Dutch? Yes, because grammar in German is very different from Dutch. It is more strict, and it definitely has more rules that the language actually follows. But when you start with something that sounds so similar, it's harder to learn the differences. I'm going to regret answering this. Emily asks, have you ever experimented with facial hair? Yes, I have. And I'd recommend you look up something called catweasel. Nicole asks, what behaviors and demeanors are big no's in your book? See, the thing is, I have a very broad interest spectrum, and it's very hard to say things that I'm definitely a no about. If I remember something, I may answer it later. Lucy asks, what gave you the idea to start a YouTube channel? Well, actually, I wanted my recordings. I made the interactive script quite a while ago, and I've been doing hypnosis for much, much longer. And I've been always sort of annoyed that there's very little high quality hypnosis available for people. Most of it seems to just be an easy cash-in. So I thought I'd make something that's was very high quality, mostly free, and even the things that cost money would be extremely cheap. Like a donation of $1 gets you access to all the files. Lesorios asks, can we have hugs? Fine, hugs for everyone. Disney Lover asks, how do you come up with ideas for your live streams? For example, would you be willing to do a tour of a specific country? Well, there's a goal on Patreon. If I reach 2,000, I will be touring the States. And I don't know if I reach that much, I might be touring other places as well. As for the live streams, I alternate them. So this is the non-kinky stream. Next month will be a kinky subject again. So yeah, the ideas did just vary. Susie Brown asks, how come when people smile you can actually tell they're smiling just by hearing their voice? It depends on the person, but genuine smiles are audible. They're also visible in the eyes. Seth was apparently traumatized by facial hair by looking up catweasel. Nova asks, what sensation are you more fond of, touch or hearing? Probably touch. Emily asks, are there some between brackets female behaviors that really entice you? Yes, I really like it when someone is comfortable in their skin. So when someone feels open and happy to be themselves. Nicole asks, will you make more freestanding interactive scripts instead of audio file transcripts? Guilty answer, yes, eventually. Over 9,000 Cookies asks, would you prefer going outside on a cruise or a picnic or staying inside making videos? I would prefer staying inside with company. Okay, Jay asks, how would you describe your sexual orientation? Strictly heterosexual? Very interesting question. No, I'm not strictly heterosexual. But my interest in men is very limited to specific people. I generally am not aroused by the male body. Eight Knives asks, you mentioned playing Warhammer Fantasy for a little while. Which army did you play, and do you still have your models? Wood Elves and no. I was playing with someone else's army. Emily, good luck. I hope the car wreck isn't too bad. Nicole mentions that the older interactive files which actually have branching are indeed more interactive than the ones now which are transcripts of files. Yes, I fully agree. I just simply haven't had the time. It's really difficult to write them. Cupid asks, video game with the best soundtrack. I actually really like the Braid soundtrack. I really like the Super Mario Galaxy soundtrack. The ending songs of Portal can, of course, not be forgotten. Let's see, super memorable soundtracks. Ooh, Mega Man 2. A lot of the NES area of soundtracks are like also very interesting. Susie Brown asks, do you live with anyone else like a housemate? I do not. Lesorios asks, could you make a tickled into obedience file? I think I have it on my list. Fancy Lala asks, do you also create video games? I actually have made some prototypes, but most of them aren't full. Cupid asks, assuming you play Smash Brothers, who do you usually play? It varies a little bit. I like to I'm not a very serious player, so I like to play around with different characters from heavy to light. Karen asks, why do I tend to swallow more while in trance? Actually, if you breathe a little bit through your mouth, which can happen when you get into trance, you will also have more saliva, therefore you swallow more. Nicole expresses frustration wanting to know what Tuesday's file is. Yes, you really do. Over 9,000 Cookies asks, could you please do some hand movements now? Please, for me, maybe some others as well. Not yet. Jay asks, is ASL hypnosis possible? What does ASL stand for in this case? Do you mean American Sign Language? And if so, yes. In theory, any communication can be used to do hypnosis, even non-verbal. Lizorius asks, is there a name for someone who goes into trance very quickly? Yes, within the hypnosis world it's called a somnambulist. Somnium is dreaming. Susie Brown asks, is Tuesday's file an erotic file? Yes. Lucy asks, I hear a lot of hypnotists, one on YouTube, have said that you should be 18 years old. What do you think? Well, this is a very complicated subject. Age of consent in the Netherlands is 16, at least for experiencing these kind of things, with parental permission, though, if I remember correctly. Personally, I know that people explore things long before they're 18, and I do feel that people should choose for themselves. However, making things too easily available for those under 18 also makes it too forward. So I'm going to leave the age restrictions on certain files. Nicole asks, should I save my weekly orgasm file to listen to Tuesday, Or may I still listen to total conditioning? You might want to wait. Nicole asks, is there a way to train to become a somnambulist or to increase your general hypnotizability? Which is a really hard word to say. Yes, you can train yourself to become more susceptible to hypnosis, mostly by listening a lot and especially listening to variation. Disney Lover asks, what are your thoughts on bondage? How many bondage files do I have? I think they're generally very positive thoughts. 8 Knives asks, what language do you normally think in? English or Dutch? It varies. Karen asks, how do I know if I'm under hypnosis or if I've just fallen asleep? Well, that is very hard to answer, usually by the effect after. You can tell. Cupid asks, biggest fear? I don't know. I have some, annoyances, but not really any big fears. Susie Brown asks, is it weird that ever since I've listened to hypnosis I tend to stare and phase out more? No. Karen asks, do you have stats on how many people watched the live event? Yes, I believe actually everyone can see how many people are watching now. Currently it says 41. Litorius asks, could you do a file with Lex from Estrangements? Do you mean Lex from UK Entrancement? And that could be interesting. I wonder if Lex would let me. Liz asks, have you ever surprised yourself with any file ideas? Yeah, there are a few where I was really surprised at how they turned up. The elemental one was a really cool idea. Lucy asks, weirdest dream you can remember? I've once had a dream where I was in a feudal Japan-like war, and because I'd been sleeping on my pillow, strangely, I had lines all over my face from the crinkles of the pillow, and when I woke up, I thought my face was full of sword wounds. So that dream is one of the weirder dreams in my head. Cupid asks, thoughts on the new advertiser-friendly YouTube policy? I do not think advertisement is the future. Andre the Warrior asks, Nimja, please use a J. Do you know silver hypnosis? I do not. I've seen one comment of his on one of my videos. And Disney Lover asks, why do you have some files that are meant to be listened to weekly? Because a lot of people who are into the more dominant type of hypnosis like being told what to do. And if I would tell them to listen to it daily, it would not be feasible for a lot of people. Weekly gives people more space to plan and listen to it without feeling that they're disobeying me. Susie Brown asks, do you believe dreamers have a deeper purpose than just something your mind does while you rest? I think it varies per dream. Sometimes your dreams are things your head needs to work out. Sometimes your dreams are pieces of the world that your head fits together. And sometimes they're just strange things that your head does when it needs to relax. Fancy Lala asks, have you ever suffered sleep paralysis? I don't think so. And Nicole BV says, had some technical difficulties and just rejoined and had to rewind to check if my questions were answered. Thank you for answering them. With pleasure. Lesorios asks, how do you put little ones to bed? That's a file for another time. Blind Ravens asks, I don't want to ask anything about hypnosis, so do you have pets? Not living with me. Lexi asks, did you play the Stanley Parable or the Beginner's Guide? Games by Davy Reedon. What's your opinion on them? Well, this is the story about a boy playing Stanley. I like them a lot. I think they're amazing games, and especially the Beginner's Guide took me by surprise. But the Stanley Parable is a fantastic example of storytelling done well and of messing with the player's head beautifully, because every time you think that you've beat the system in Stanley, you haven't, and there's a recording waiting for you telling that you haven't beat the system. It's awesome. This is the serious room. Lucy asks, what is the funniest thing you've done to someone under hypnosis? Feeling good. Especially the aftermath after a specific example of that. Innocent look. Nova Feather asks, do you like rodents? Not wild. Nicole asks, you get a lot of satisfaction from teasing your listeners, pet subs and slaves, don't you, sir? Yes. And of course, for anyone who listened to that file today, how are you feeling? Disney Lover asks, have you had any funny experience with hypnosis? Actually, yes. I had one amazingly funny experience at a party where I was showing off hypnosis. So the situation was as follows. I was at the party with a sub of mine at the time where I had a trigger to turn her into a cat-like feeling. And I was hypnotizing someone who was, I believe, autistic. And he really liked the idea of just having a simple mind. So I asked him, what animal would you like to be? And he said a mouse. So I spent a lot of time making him emotionally feel like a mouse. However, when the girl walked in, I just couldn't resist and I triggered her cat form. And both of them instantly reacted to each other and chased each other over the floor. It was awesome. And hilarious. A lot of people were extremely confused by what was happening. Both of the people involved, by the way, had the time of their life. They thanked me quite a lot afterwards. They enjoyed it intensely. So, any further question? Susie Brown asks, would you ever do a file using random triggers you've done in the past? For example, the cute kitty trigger. Maybe. It's an interesting idea. Jay asks, which file did you mean? Feeling good. Over 9,000 Cookies asks, hand movements? No, not anymore. Patience. Nova Shadowfeather asks, do you prefer longer or shorter hair on a sub? Both have their advantages. Long hair is fun for pulling though, and pulling hair can be very nice. Eight Knives asks, what was the worst hypnosis experience you had? I've had some weird app reactions, but I wouldn't really call them the worst hypnosis experience. Like, the worst experience I've had related to hypnosis was interference by other people. But, like, I wouldn't really call that the hypnosis experience itself. Cupid asks, scariest game you've played? Well, scary is very subjective. I think the coolest scene that I've seen in a game is actually from quite a while ago, called Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines. The second mission you do is in a haunted mansion, and the first time you play that, it is quite well done. Nicole asks, how do you feel about hypnosis and or teasing in public? Not just as an idea, but actually doing it. I do believe I have some everyday files. I have a file about listening while you're traveling, and some other files that imply very strongly that I like public play. So yes, I do. Els the Rebel asks, N, can we get very scary Halloween audio? Ooh. Fancy Lada asks, yes, maybe some Incubus file for Halloween. Who knows? We'll see. The Christarina asks, what's an alpha submissive? That depends a bit on your definition, but usually it means in a poly situation, the primary submissive. But it can also mean someone who's a switch, so also taking care of other submissives. Lizorios asks, can you say something in your snake voice? Yes, I can. Eight Knives asks, kun je iets in het Nederlands or in your snake voice? En ja, dat kan ik. Lizzie asks, how does one let themselves go under funny effect or stage hypnosis? I am not really sure what you're asking. Nicole asks, what inspired the knife induction file? Well, knife play is fun. Lucy asks, are you planning on doing any files for school? Well, I have a focus file, but I may do more. Maya Star asks, which character did you play in Vampire Bloodlines? Malkavian. Actually, I played as a Tremere the first time, but if you play as a Malkavian, you get amazing options. Nova Shadowfeather asks, do you enjoy subby subs or alpha subs? Yes. Jay asks, could someone be hypnotized into forgetting a certain word? I have an agreement with my friends that we'll get punched if we say snake. Not for a very long time. These kind of effects are usually very short-lasting. Nicole asks, do you release files in a specific order for an overall purpose, or do you just record and release what interests you at the time? This varies. Sometimes I have an idea for a week, like a theme or even a few files, but most of the time each file is recorded and planned separately. Disney Lover, do you plan on other files, like the knife play one? Yes. Nova Shadowfeather asks, I can only wonder how many people are submissively under your control. Susie Brown asks, I have been thinking, is your name Jay, sir? Jay, sir? I'm so curious what your name is. It is not Jay. And yes, alpha sub can also be like an Amazon submissive, like Xena. And I wouldn't say that my name is a cipher of Nimja. It's more that Nimja is my name translated through a cipher. And fireplay? Yes, maybe. Although I must say, cupping has not yet been a personal experience yet. And now a poem by Lizorios. Roses are red, violets are blue, Pornhub is down, so Nimja will do. Lizorios asks, cheeky or bratty? I think that was cheeky. Eight Knives asks, is your name 5 letters long? It is not. Sayo asks, what time is it for you? It is now 11:20. Taldira asks, any recommendations to someone with an inner psychopath, think multiple personalities, who wants to feel truly dominated? Yes. I would say that you need someone who can spend time with you personally, to take the time to go through all the layers and really dominate the deep part of you. Nova Shadow further asks, do you take pleasure in punishment? No, I prefer punishing others. But no, I see punishment really as punishment. There's a very big difference between spanking and punishing. And Jime asks, is your name Jamie? No, but phonetically not that far away. Over 9000 asks, are smiles contagious? Yes, it's a very serious condition. If you see someone smile, you might have to warn them. Susie Brown asks, James? No. The name's not Bonds. James Bond. Darth Claus Girl asks, what made you want to go into hypnosis and how long have you been doing hypnosis for? Well, part of this is on the site, and I've always been interested in domination and mind play, even before I knew about hypnosis itself. When I was 11, I read a science article about hypnosis, and when I was 16, I did my first trance. Nicole asks, do you enjoy correcting your subjects for mistakes, small or otherwise, or would you prefer them not to make mistakes at all? I generally prefer helping them with mistakes rather than forcing them not to make mistakes. Mistakes are a very important part of life and learning. And Lizorios, you will have to ask your question again because I could not make sense of it. I'm sorry. Over 9000 cookies, it's dangerous to go alone. Take this. Maya Star asks, will we get to see your Viking sword? Well, a gentleman does not show his sword in public. Seven minutes remaining. Get your last questions in, people. Told to Stop asks, do you get a lot of requests for freeze suggestions? It seems popular. Yes, and to my shame, I still have not done a slow freezing file. I will, though. Disney Lover asks, would you tell someone if they were bothering you? Yes, I am a very direct and forward person, partly because I'm Dutch and partly just because I'm me. Nicole asks, how do you feel about a sub testing your rules for the intention of seeking punishment? Usually I figure this out very early, and they can count on some very interesting retribution. Usually they do not get the punishment that they're seeking for. Lesorios asks, are cuddles nice to give to people in trance? Yes, as long as, of course, they consent. Over 9,000 Cookies asks, how much more patient do I have to be for hand movements? Well, you still ruined it for today. I'm sorry. And Jay asks, do you think it's odd that your streams go up in the afternoon for many people? Well, no, the thing is that, like, this is the best time I could come up with that matches most time zones and is doable for me. I am often doing stuff in the weekends, and Sunday evening is the only time that I basically have for things like this. Susie Brown asks, why are you so nice to us even though you're making us your slaves? I am a gentle man. It doesn't mean that I'm not strict, though. And Disney Lover asks, would you give a cuddle to a bound person? Oh, yes. And I would remind them how frustrated they are that they can't even cuddle back. Oh, why aren't you cuddling back? Don't you like being hugged? I suppose I shouldn't cuddle you then. Eight Knives asks, how much evil glee are you taking in watching us trying to figure out your name? I would say about 5.4 on the Evil Overlord scale. Death Claws Girl asks, how much do you do hypnosis? Do you do much hypnosis in real life? And if so, how have your subjects been, like, stubborn? It varies a lot. People like come to me in all kinds of states and all kinds of desires. Lucy asks, when was the last time you were hypnotized? A very, very long time ago. Else the Rebel asks, can I wish you a good night? If yes, good night. Good night, Else. Nicole asks, is the punishment they get intended to prevent the sub from testing your line again, or as a tease? This varies a bit on how they do this. It's important to know that, like, testing limits is not necessarily a bad thing, but pushing too far is. And now for the last question. Lysorios asks, do I have to go to sleep? Well, that seems like a very appropriate last question, considering it's almost 11:30 in the evening. Yes. Alright, I hope everyone had fun. And remember, hypno.nimja.com will have the file up in just a while. Oh, one more question that I will answer. Louise asks, why is it that since I've listened to you, I can't get hypnotized by anyone else? This is not that uncommon. A lot of people prefer listening to a single hypnotist and prefer placing their trust in a single hypnotist. If you feel that you're too much tied to me, I have made reset files that, like, remove my influence over you. So that's all up to you. Now I hope everyone had a wonderful time. Thank you for joining me. Thank you for all your comments and questions. It's been a lot of fun. And I will see you next month. Good night.